The hall was alive with laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses. People had gathered for a casual talent show, a place where anyone could step forward and perform something fun. The air was warm, full of excitement, and sprinkled with the faint aroma of snacks and perfume. On the stage, a lively host was moving around, joking with the audience and pointing out friends who had come to perform. It was a night meant for fun, a night where no one expected anything serious, just smiles and lighthearted applause. From her seat near the back, a woman watched quietly. She had not come to perform or be noticed. She had come to enjoy the evening, perhaps to forget a long day or simply be among people for a little while. Her hands rested on her lap, fingers loosely intertwined, as she followed the host's antics. She laughed quietly when the host made a joke, her eyes lighting up for a moment before returning to their calm gaze. She seemed ordinary, just another face in the crowd, blending in without drawing attention. The host's eyes scanned the audience, looking for someone to join him on the stage. He waved his hands dramatically, calling out for a volunteer. The crowd cheered and laughed, eager to see someone come forward. People shouted their names or nudged friends playfully, hoping to see them make a scene. The woman shifted in her seat, hoping to remain unnoticed. She was not looking for attention, and the thought of standing on stage made her heart beat faster. Yet, before she could fully settle back into her seat, the host's eyes landed on her. With a mischievous grin, he pointed directly at her and said something lighthearted that drew laughter from the crowd. "How about you come up and show us your talent?" The words hung in the air, and the room erupted with cheers. Some clapped, others whistled, and a few people laughed at the unexpected choice. The woman's face went pale. She had not expected to be singled out, not in a million years. Her mind raced, wondering if she should stand up or quietly pretend she had not heard. The host waited, encouraging her with a playful gesture. There was no way to refuse without drawing attention, and the audience's energy was electric, pushing her forward. Slowly, almost reluctantly, she rose from her seat. Her legs felt heavier than usual, and her breath came in small, nervous bursts. The crowd cheered as she walked toward the stage, some clapping her on the shoulder, others calling her name. Each step felt surreal. She had been just an observer moments ago, and now every eye in the room was fixed on her. She could hear her own heartbeat, loud in her ears, and it seemed to match the rhythm of the excitement in the room. When she reached the stage, the host greeted her warmly, his energy still playful, but now tinged with curiosity. "Don't worry, just have fun," he said, handing her a microphone. The woman held it tightly, unsure if she was ready to speak or sing. She glanced at the audience, a sea of faces filled with expectation and friendly smiles. Some were familiar, many were strangers, yet they all seemed to wait for something magical to happen. She felt a rush of anxiety, wondering if she could live up to even the simplest expectation. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. The host tried to ease the tension with small talk, asking her if she had ever performed before. She shook her head softly, and a murmur of laughter and encouragement passed through the crowd. The audience seemed to sense her nervousness and responded not with judgment but with warmth. Some clapped gently, others gave nods of reassurance. She felt a small flicker of comfort, realizing that these people were not there to judge harshly, only to enjoy the night and share in the experience. As she stood there, gripping the microphone, she remembered why she had come. Music had always been a part of her life, a quiet companion in moments of joy and sorrow. She had sung when no one was listening, had hummed tunes while doing chores, and had found solace in the melodies she created for herself. No one had heard her sing in a long time, and now the chance had come unexpectedly, in the middle of a hall filled with strangers. She took a deep breath, feeling the familiar nervousness mixed with a tiny spark of excitement. Perhaps she thought this could be fun. Perhaps she could forget the anxiety and just let the music flow. The host stepped back slightly, giving her space. He gestured encouragingly, smiling broadly. "Whenever you're ready," he said. The woman closed her eyes for a brief moment, centering herself. She let her mind drift to a song she had sung many times alone, a melody that felt safe and familiar. She could hear it in her head, the notes rising and falling like gentle waves. She opened her mouth to sing, and the first sound came out, soft but clear. The room held its breath, a subtle shift in the energy as the sound reached the ears of the audience. People started to notice the quality of the voice almost immediately. It was not just a casual tune. It carried warmth, clarity, and an emotion that seemed to touch each listener personally. The crowd, still expecting light-hearted entertainment, paused in surprise. Conversations halted mid-word, laughter faded, and all eyes focused on the stranger on stage. Even the host, who had seen countless performances and unexpected moments, froze, caught off guard by the raw talent emerging before him. The woman continued, gaining confidence as she felt the room's attention. Each note seemed to resonate not only in the hall but in the hearts of the listeners. She had not planned to impress anyone, had not imagined being noticed in this way, yet the music flowed naturally. Her fingers tightened around the microphone slightly, her body swaying gently with the rhythm, but she did not falter. The anxiety that had gripped her earlier softened, replaced by the sheer joy of sharing something deeply personal. In the audience, people exchanged glances, some with wide eyes, others whispering softly to their neighbors. The effect was subtle but undeniable. The hall had shifted from a casual, playful atmosphere to one of awe and fascination. Everyone felt it, the unexpected depth that came from a single voice untrained in showmanship but rich in genuine talent. The woman's presence, ordinary moments ago, had transformed into something extraordinary simply through the power of music. The host recovered his composure and took a step back, allowing the stranger to take full control of the moment. His hands rested on his hips, a smile still playing on his lips, but his eyes reflected admiration. He had invited people on stage for fun countless times, but rarely had the outcome been so profound. The audience sensed it too, a collective understanding that they were witnessing a rare moment, something they might tell friends and family about for years to come. As the song continued, the woman's voice carried a mixture of strength and vulnerability. She had not intended to move anyone, yet the music seemed to reach into the hearts of the listeners, evoking feelings they did not expect. Some closed their eyes, letting the sound wash over them, while others leaned forward in their seats, captivated by the purity of the notes. Time seemed to slow, the usual hum of activity in the hall replaced by a shared experience of wonder and connection. When the last note lingered in the air, the room remained silent for a heartbeat longer than usual. It was a silence filled with respect, amazement, and the realization that something remarkable had just occurred. The woman lowered the microphone slightly, her own heart racing, unsure of how to process the reaction she had evoked. She had simply followed an impulse, answered an unexpected invitation, and yet she had created a moment that would not soon be forgotten. Then, as if a dam had broken, the audience erupted into applause. Clapping, cheering, and shouts of admiration filled the hall, mixing with laughter and tears. People rose to their feet, some calling out words of encouragement, others whistling or stomping in appreciation. The host joined in, clapping enthusiastically, his energy now fully aligned with the extraordinary performance they had all witnessed. The woman smiled, a mixture of relief and joy spreading across her face. She had faced the unknown and discovered something powerful about herself in the process. The applause continued for several moments, the sound echoing off the walls and reverberating through every corner of the hall. She felt the warmth of the audience's response, a shared recognition of the courage it took to step forward and the beauty that emerged from that courage. In that instant, she realized that sometimes life presents opportunities in the most unexpected ways, and the choice to embrace them can change everything. As the energy in the room gradually settled, she stepped back slightly, still smiling, still breathing in the collective admiration. She had not sought fame, attention, or accolades. She had simply responded to an invitation, allowed herself to be vulnerable, and in doing so, had created a memory that would linger long after the night ended. The hall, once filled with casual chatter and light-hearted fun, had been transformed by a simple act of bravery and the gift of her voice. And as she looked out at the faces of strangers, all captivated and inspired, she knew that this moment was only the beginning of something unexpected and remarkable. The hall remained still, filled with an almost tangible sense of wonder. The woman on stage continued to sing, each note carrying a quiet strength that seemed to touch every heart in the room. People had expected a light, casual performance, perhaps a short song or a playful act, but what they were experiencing now was entirely different. Her voice flowed naturally, effortlessly, filling the space with warmth and emotion. Each note seemed to have a life of its own, rising and falling like waves that reached every corner of the hall. Some audience members leaned forward, their eyes fixed on her, unable to look away. Others closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them, feeling the emotions that had been quietly stored away in their own hearts. A few people dabbed at the corners of their eyes, surprised by the unexpected depth of feeling that the voice had awakened. It was not just the skill of singing that captivated them, but the sincerity, the raw emotion, and the honesty that came through every note. The woman's hands gripped the microphone lightly, but her body moved subtly with the rhythm of the song. She had not planned to perform with any showmanship. There was no choreographed movement or dramatic gesture. Yet, the simplicity of her presence and the purity of her voice created a magnetic energy that drew everyone in. She was ordinary in appearance, yet extraordinary in the effect she had on the room. The contrast between her quiet demeanor and the power of her music made the moment even more remarkable. Around her, the audience was connected in a way they had not expected. Strangers shared glances, smiles, and nods, each silently acknowledging the beauty of what was unfolding. There was a sense of unity, a collective understanding that they were all witnessing something rare and special. Even those who had come for a casual evening of fun were caught up in the intensity of the moment, feeling emotions that they had not anticipated. The music had a way of reaching into their hearts, stirring memories, and feelings they had long forgotten. The host, who had initially invited her up as a joke, stood to the side, watching with genuine admiration. He had seen countless performances, but rarely had he felt the way he did now. His usual humor and playful energy were replaced with awe and respect. He smiled, nodding quietly, recognizing that this was a moment that could not be scripted or planned. It was pure, spontaneous, and unforgettable. As the song continued, the woman's confidence grew. She had started nervously, unsure of how her voice would be received, but the reaction from the audience encouraged her to let go of any doubt. Each note became stronger, more expressive, and more heartfelt. She felt a deep connection with the listeners, sensing their attention and their emotional response. It was as if the music had built an invisible bridge between her and everyone in the hall, a bridge that carried understanding, empathy, and shared human experience. Some people whispered softly to each other, amazed at the unexpected talent. "She is incredible," one said. "I've never heard anything like this before," whispered another. Others were silent, lost in their own thoughts and feelings, unable to find words for the experience. It was rare to see such an immediate and profound impact from a single performance, and everyone in the room seemed to understand that they were witnessing something extraordinary. The emotion in the room was palpable. The woman's voice seemed to capture joy, sadness, hope, and longing all at once. She sang not just with her mouth, but with her whole being, expressing feelings that words alone could not convey. The audience felt it deeply, some with tears welling up in their eyes, others with smiles that reflected the warmth and comfort they felt. The energy in the hall was no longer casual or playful. It had become intimate, personal, and deeply moving. For the woman, the experience was transformative. She had come to the event without any expectation, simply joining for fun, but now she was part of something larger than herself. Each note she sang carried a piece of her soul, and she could feel the connection with the audience in return. It was a rare and beautiful exchange, a moment when music transcended words and became something universal. She had faced her fear, embraced vulnerability, and discovered the power of sharing her true self. As the song approached its climax, the room was completely silent except for the sound of her voice. The audience was mesmerized, caught in a moment that seemed to stretch time itself. The music had the effect of slowing everything down, allowing each listener to fully experience the emotions that were being expressed. People held their breath, not wanting to interrupt the delicate balance of sound and feeling. The woman's expression reflected a mixture of focus, serenity, and joy, as if she were aware of the magic she had created, but still humble in its presence. The notes floated through the hall, carrying with them a sense of purity and honesty. Every listener felt a personal connection, whether it reminded them of a memory, a dream, or an emotion they had tucked away. It was a rare moment when art, in its simplest form, could reach so deeply into human hearts. The audience was united in their appreciation, experiencing something that words could not fully describe. It was not just entertainment. It was a shared human experience, one that left a lasting impression on everyone present. Some people found themselves holding hands with strangers, as if the music had created an unspoken bond between them. Others leaned back in their seats, closing their eyes and letting the sound envelop them. The woman continued, unaware of the profound effect she was having, simply focused on the music and the joy of singing. She felt a sense of freedom and release, as if all her worries and doubts had been lifted in the act of performing. When the final notes lingered and slowly faded, the hall remained quiet for a brief, almost suspended moment. The audience, still absorbed in the beauty of what they had heard, seemed reluctant to break the spell. Then, as if realizing they could no longer contain their admiration, applause erupted. The sound was immediate, loud, and filled with genuine appreciation. People clapped, cheered, and some even stood, their faces glowing with excitement and awe. The host joined in, clapping enthusiastically, his previous jest replaced with heartfelt admiration. The woman lowered the microphone, breathing a little more steadily, her face reflecting relief, joy, and wonder. She had not expected this, could not have imagined the impact of a simple choice to sing on a whim. Yet here she was, surrounded by people who had witnessed something extraordinary. The applause continued, echoing in the hall, mingling with laughter and whispers of amazement. The moment had become more than a performance. It had become a shared memory, a story that would linger in the hearts of everyone who was present. As she stepped back slightly, the audience's energy remained high, filled with admiration and quiet reverence. The connection forged in those few minutes was tangible, a reminder of the power of courage, vulnerability, and the universal language of music. For the listeners, it was a reminder that beauty can appear unexpectedly, in the most ordinary of places and from the most unassuming of people. For the woman, it was a revelation of her own strength and the incredible effect that sharing one's true self can have. People began to murmur to each other, sharing their astonishment and discussing the unexpected talent they had just witnessed. Some were planning to tell friends and family, while others simply sat in reflective silence, absorbing the lingering emotions. The woman, still standing on stage, felt a mixture of humility and pride. She had stepped into the unknown, faced her fears, and discovered a new sense of possibility. The hall, which had been filled with casual chatter and playful energy, had transformed into a place of awe, reflection, and shared human experience. The host approached her again, smiling warmly. He offered words of praise, telling her how remarkable the performance had been. She smiled back, softly, feeling both embarrassed and gratified. The experience had been unexpected, unplanned, and completely outside her comfort zone. Yet it had brought her a sense of fulfillment and joy that she could hardly describe. She realized that life sometimes presents moments that can change everything, moments that arise from courage, spontaneity, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. As the applause began to fade, the woman looked out at the audience one last time. Faces were glowing with emotion, some reflecting tears, others smiles, but all touched by the shared experience. She felt a deep gratitude for the chance to connect with so many people in such a meaningful way. The hall, once a place of casual fun and expectation, had become a vessel for something much greater. She stepped down from the stage slowly, carrying with her the realization that a single choice, a single note, could create ripples of emotion that reached far beyond what anyone could imagine. The applause in the hall had barely begun to fade when whispers and murmurs filled the air. The audience could not stop talking about what they had just witnessed. The stranger who had been invited on stage for fun had delivered a performance so powerful and moving that it had transformed the room. People looked at each other in disbelief, their eyes wide, smiles soft, and some with tears still glistening. It was as though they had all shared a secret moment of beauty, one that they could not fully explain but would never forget. Some people immediately got up from their seats to speak to her, drawn by the warmth and authenticity that had come through her voice. They asked gentle questions, complimented her singing, and expressed how touched they were by the emotions she had conveyed. Their voices were full of admiration, and they leaned in, wanting to hear her story. She had expected nothing, had only stepped up to the stage for a moment of fun, and now she found herself surrounded by strangers who were eager to understand who she was and how she could sing with such depth. The host stepped forward again, still beaming, and spoke to the audience about the unexpected turn of events. He admitted that he had invited her as a light-hearted moment, never anticipating the level of talent and emotion that had been revealed. The audience laughed softly, both at the irony and at the realization that this moment had surpassed anything anyone could have planned. The host's usual jokes had faded into genuine admiration, and he encouraged the crowd to show their appreciation once more, which they did with renewed energy and enthusiasm. As the applause and cheers continued, a few audience members quietly began sharing stories of how the performance had touched them personally. Some mentioned memories that the song had reminded them of, while others spoke of emotions they had not been able to express for a long time. The woman listened quietly, humbled by the effect her singing had on others. She had not performed for attention or recognition, and yet her voice had reached people in ways she had never imagined. It was a humbling realization that her passion, something she had thought of as private and personal, could have such a profound impact. The energy in the hall was electric, but it was also gentle and warm. People moved closer to the stage, wanting to be near her, wanting to share in the moment. Some took photos, others simply watched, not wanting to disturb the delicate balance of admiration and awe that had settled over the audience. Children who had been quietly seated at the edges of the hall peeked forward, their eyes wide with wonder, sensing the beauty without fully understanding it. Even those who were skeptical or had come with low expectations were now completely captivated, their attention held firmly by the purity of her performance. The host returned to her side, offering words of encouragement and praise. "You have a gift," he said softly, his tone sincere. "Thank you for sharing it with all of us tonight." She smiled, a little shyly, and nodded, feeling a mixture of pride, relief, and surprise. The recognition was unexpected, and it stirred a quiet joy within her. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen, understood, and appreciated not just for trying, but for the true expression of herself that she had given freely. Several people approached her, some with professional interest and others with purely personal admiration. A few asked if she had performed publicly before, and when she shook her head, they expressed amazement that such talent could exist quietly, unnoticed, until this very moment. The woman felt a mixture of modesty and disbelief herself. She had never imagined that a spontaneous choice to step on stage could lead to such recognition. Her heart was full, and yet calm, as she realized that this was a turning point, a moment that might lead to new opportunities she had never considered. The audience's reaction continued to be one of wonder and warmth. People were sharing stories of similar experiences, of moments when they had been unexpectedly moved by something beautiful. The hall was alive not just with conversation, but with the shared understanding that something extraordinary had occurred. The woman stood quietly, listening, absorbing the energy, and feeling the impact of her music in a way that words could not fully capture. The collective experience of the audience had become a reflection of her own journey, unexpected, raw, and filled with discovery. Some audience members approached her to speak privately, expressing how her voice had touched them deeply. One older man spoke of memories from his youth, times when he had sung with his family, and how her song had brought those moments back vividly. A young woman shared her gratitude, saying the song had helped her release a sadness she had been carrying quietly. Each story was different, yet all connected by the emotional thread her voice had created. She listened with humility, realizing that the smallest act of sharing her passion had ripple effects far beyond what she had imagined. Meanwhile, the host invited her to take a short break while he engaged the audience in conversation about the performance. He asked for reactions, stories, and reflections, encouraging the crowd to process what they had experienced. People spoke candidly, with admiration, awe, and genuine emotion. Their words painted a picture of how deeply they had been affected, and she felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had contributed something meaningful to their evening. As she stepped away from the stage for a moment, she felt a wave of relief and exhilaration. Her hands, which had been slightly trembling, relaxed. She took a deep breath, enjoying the warmth of the lights, the sound of applause still lingering, and the realization that her spontaneous choice had led to a moment of connection and recognition. It was a reminder that sometimes the simplest actions, born out of courage or curiosity, could create profound experiences for both the doer and the audience. The conversation with the audience continued, and some members began discussing ways her talent could be shared more widely. A few suggested local events, small gatherings, or even online platforms where she could perform again. She listened with interest, intrigued by the possibilities she had never considered. The thought that her voice could reach even more people was both exciting and slightly intimidating. Yet, she felt ready to explore, inspired by the encouragement and warmth of those who had witnessed her performance tonight. The applause rose again as the host invited her back to the stage for a brief acknowledgement. She stepped forward, smiling, and waved to the crowd. The energy of the audience was uplifting, a mix of excitement, respect, and curiosity. People clapped, some cheered, and others simply watched, their faces reflecting admiration and gratitude. It was a moment of pure connection, one where the barrier between performer and audience had dissolved, replaced by shared appreciation and emotional resonance. She spoke a few quiet words, thanking the audience for their kindness and support. Her voice was calm, sincere, and heartfelt. The hall responded warmly, showing that her humility and gratitude were as appreciated as her talent. It was a moment that reinforced the human connection, reminding everyone present that beyond talent and performance, sincerity and openness created the strongest bonds. The audience felt acknowledged, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had given more than just music. She had shared a piece of herself. After stepping back, she noticed people still lingering, talking among themselves, and reflecting on the performance. The hall was no longer just a place for entertainment. It had become a space for reflection, connection, and emotional exchange. The impact of her singing extended beyond the stage, touching the lives of those present in ways that would last long after the event ended. Conversations buzzed quietly with admiration, plans for future performances, and stories of how the music had resonated with personal experiences. The host concluded the segment by thanking her again and praising her courage and talent. He reminded everyone that sometimes the most remarkable moments come from the most unexpected places. The audience clapped once more, many standing, their faces filled with appreciation. The woman, now slightly more confident and aware of her own impact, smiled warmly. She had come to the event for fun, seeking nothing more than a lighthearted evening, and yet she had experienced something transformative, not just for herself, but for everyone in the room. As the night continued, people lingered, hoping to catch a final glimpse of her, speak a few words, or simply express their gratitude. She moved among them, accepting compliments and sharing quiet smiles, realizing that this one performance had opened doors she had never imagined. The hall was buzzing with energy, warmth, and excitement, yet it was tempered by a sense of wonder and reflection. People were not just entertained. They had been touched, reminded of the beauty that could appear unexpectedly and the power of courage to create meaningful connections. She finally found a quiet moment to herself, standing at the edge of the hall and taking it all in. The applause, the conversations, and the emotions of the evening swirled around her, leaving her with a profound sense of gratitude. She had stepped into the unknown, faced her fears, and shared a piece of herself with strangers, and in return, had received recognition, connection, and a deep sense of fulfillment. It was a night she would never forget, a moment that would shape her future, and a reminder that life's most meaningful experiences often arise from the simplest acts of courage and openness. The woman walked quietly through the hall after the applause had finally settled, her mind still spinning from the evening's events. She had come with no expectation, simply to enjoy a casual night out, yet what had unfolded was beyond anything she had imagined. People continued to talk about her performance, sharing stories, exchanging glances, and commenting on the profound effect her voice had had on them. She moved slowly, letting herself take it all in, feeling a mixture of awe, humility, and disbelief. As she stepped outside for a moment of fresh air, the cool breeze brushed her face, and she let herself breathe deeply. The night sky stretched above her, quiet and calm, in contrast to the energy inside the hall. She smiled softly, realizing how a single choice, to step onto a stage she had never planned to be on, had opened doors she had never considered. It was not just the applause or recognition. It was the human connection, the shared experience, and the unexpected validation of her talent that made the moment so significant. People began to approach her even outside the hall. Some were familiar faces from the audience, others were new, having followed the excitement or simply eager to express admiration. They asked questions gently, wanting to know her story, her background, and how she had discovered her voice. She shared quietly, humbled by the attention, explaining that she had sung mostly for herself and never expected to perform publicly. Their reactions were filled with amazement and warmth, reinforcing the sense that her gift had touched many in a way that went beyond mere performance. A few individuals suggested opportunities to perform again, mentioning local events, gatherings, or even online platforms where her talent could reach an even wider audience. She listened thoughtfully, feeling a spark of excitement she had never experienced before. It was as if the world had suddenly expanded, revealing possibilities she had not imagined. The notion that her voice could create joy, connection, and inspiration for more people stirred something deep within her. For the first time, she considered that her passion could become more than a private solace. It could be a bridge to others' hearts. Back inside, the host had begun wrapping up the evening but kept mentioning her performance. He spoke with genuine admiration, praising her courage and the unexpected brilliance of her voice. The audience, still buzzing from the experience, echoed his sentiments with nods, claps, and soft murmurs of agreement. The room had transformed from casual entertainment to a space where people felt deeply connected by the extraordinary presence of one unassuming individual who had dared to step forward. The woman found a quiet corner, reflecting on the evening. The energy of the hall, the admiration of the audience, and the warmth of shared emotion lingered in her mind. She realized that courage did not always come from planning or preparation. Sometimes, it arose from a simple willingness to say yes to an opportunity. She had taken a chance, faced her nerves, and in doing so, created a moment that would remain in people's hearts. The thought was both humbling and exhilarating, filling her with a quiet pride she had never experienced before. As the crowd began to leave, many came by to speak with her one last time. Some thanked her for the emotional impact, sharing personal stories about how the music had moved them. A few were silent, only offering smiles, handshakes, or gentle nods, their expressions conveying what words could not. She responded with gratitude and humility, aware that the true gift of the night had not been in the applause, but in the connection she had made with each person who had listened. Later, as the hall emptied and quiet returned, she lingered to take a last look around. The stage, the lights, and the echoes of applause reminded her of the unexpected journey she had been on. She thought about the nervous steps she had taken, the uncertainty she had felt, and how it had all led to this profound moment. It was a reminder that life often presented opportunities in unplanned ways, and embracing them with openness and courage could lead to experiences that changed everything. Walking home, she reflected on what had happened. The night had started as ordinary, with simple expectations of fun and amusement, Yet it had turned into something extraordinary. She had discovered more than just her own abilities. She had discovered the impact of sharing something authentic with others. The audience's reaction had shown her that when one is genuine and vulnerable, it resonates far beyond what is visible or anticipated. She felt a quiet confidence growing within her, a sense that she could embrace future opportunities with courage and openness. Over the next days, she noticed the effect of that evening lingering. People she knew, and even some strangers, mentioned the performance. The event had sparked conversations about courage, talent, and the unexpected ways one moment could create lasting impressions. She received invitations, messages, and offers to perform again, each one reminding her that the choice to step onto the stage had unlocked doors that she had never known existed. While the attention was overwhelming at times, it was also affirming, a reflection of the truth that embracing her passion had not only enriched her life, but also touched the lives of others. She began to consider performing more regularly, exploring small gatherings, community events, and eventually, opportunities that could reach larger audiences. The thought was both exciting and intimidating, yet she felt ready to embrace it. She had faced her fear once, experienced the magic of sharing her voice, and seen the immediate connection it could create. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes life's most significant moments begin with the simplest decisions, the moments when one chooses to step forward despite uncertainty. Friends and family, who had attended or heard about the event, expressed pride and amazement at what she had accomplished. They reminded her that talent combined with courage could lead to extraordinary outcomes. She appreciated their support, yet she also recognized that this journey was personal, a discovery of her own capabilities and the unexpected influence she could have on others. The applause had faded, but its impact remained, a constant reminder of the beauty that arose from authenticity and boldness. Weeks passed, and she continued to reflect on that night. Every time she recalled it, she remembered the faces of the audience, the stillness as the first notes filled the hall, and the profound emotions that followed. It was not just a memory of performance but a memory of connection, shared human experience, and the power of courage to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. She realized that her life had subtly shifted. The fear of stepping forward had been replaced by an understanding of her own strength and the joy of sharing her true self. She also noticed a change within herself, a deeper confidence, a willingness to embrace opportunities she might have once ignored, and a growing appreciation for the unexpected moments that life offered. Singing had always been her private refuge, a personal comfort, but now it had become a bridge to others, a source of joy, inspiration, and human connection. The realization was profound, and she carried it with her in every decision, every interaction, and every small choice she made. As she prepared for future performances, she approached each opportunity with the same openness and courage that had guided her that first night. She understood that every stage, no matter how small or large, was a chance to connect, inspire, and touch lives. The audience's reactions had taught her that talent was not merely about skill, but about honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to share one's true self. She embraced this lesson, allowing it to guide her in every step forward. The experience also left her with a sense of responsibility and gratitude. She knew that moments of connection and inspiration were rare and precious. She vowed to approach each performance, each interaction, and each choice with sincerity, aware that the simplest acts of courage could create ripples far beyond what she could imagine. Life, she realized, was filled with unexpected opportunities, and the willingness to step forward and embrace them could lead to moments of profound beauty. In the months that followed, her voice continued to touch lives, creating moments of wonder, connection, and emotional resonance wherever she performed. She never sought fame or recognition, yet it followed naturally as a result of her authenticity and passion. Every performance was a reminder of that first night. The nervous steps, the unexpected invitation, the silence of the hall, and the overwhelming warmth and admiration of the audience. Each moment was a reaffirmation of the power of courage, vulnerability, and the human capacity to inspire and be inspired. Through it all, she carried a quiet sense of fulfillment and gratitude. The evening had been more than a performance. It had been a turning point, a lesson, and a gift. She had discovered not only her own voice but also the profound impact that one person could have when they dared to step forward, share their talent, and be truly themselves. The memory of that night remained vivid, a source of strength, joy, and inspiration for everything she would do in the future. It was a reminder that life's most extraordinary moments often arise from the simplest acts of courage, and that the willingness to embrace the unknown could lead to experiences that would shape one's life forever.